Before this story begins, ask yourself one question. What would you do if everything was taken from you? Hope, safety, and certainty. When darkness closes in and the world feels unforgiving, some people don't break. They rise. They endure. They find strength where none seems left. Welcome to Enduring Strength, where true stories of survival, courage, and the human spirit are forged in fire and fear. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Because every story here proves one thing. Even in the darkest moments, the human spirit refuses to surrender. Imagine this. Your plane crashes in the middle of the frozen Andes Mountains. No food, no shelter, and no sign of rescue. For 72 days, the survivors faced unimaginable cold, starvation, and the loss of friends and family. What happened up on that glacier is more than just a survival story. It's a profound testament to the human spirit's will to live, the bonds of friendship, and the incredible sacrifices made for one another. Their story has been told in books and films, but the raw courage they showed continues to inspire and humble us all. What do you think's the most powerful lesson from their ordeal? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. The plane took off from Montevideo, carrying a young Uruguayan rugby team along with friends and family. Laughter filled the cabin as they talked about the match waiting for them in Chile. The journey felt ordinary and safe. None of them sensed the danger ahead. Flight 571 was a small aircraft, designed for short routes, not extreme mountain crossings. As it approached the Andes, clouds thickened and swallowed the horizon. Snow-covered peaks slowly surrounded the plane. The mood inside quietly shifted. Turbulence struck suddenly, shaking the aircraft from side to side. Passengers gripped their seats as fear replaced excitement. The pilots relied heavily on instruments as visibility disappeared. The mountains were closer than anyone realized. Without warning, the aircraft struck a ridge hidden by clouds. A deafening sound ripped through the cabin as one wing tore away. Seconds later, the second wing was gone. The plane became uncontrollable. The fuselage plunged downward through thin mountain air. Screams echoed as gravity took command of everything inside. Seats broke loose, and bodies collided violently. Panic consumed every second. The plane slammed onto a remote glacier at terrifying speed. Snow and ice exploded through the shattered structure. The aircraft slid violently before coming to a sudden stop. Silence followed chaos. Those who survived opened their eyes to endless white emptiness. The cold air burned their lungs with every breath. Many were injured and bleeding. Others lay motionless, already gone. As night-filled temperatures dropped far below freezing, survivors gathered inside the broken fuselage for shelter. They used luggage and debris to block openings. The wreckage became their only refuge. Food supplies were almost non-existent. A few chocolate bars and wine bottles were all they had. Everything was divided into tiny portions. Hunger arrived quickly. Days passed with no sign of rescue. Snowstorms repeatedly buried the wreckage. Search planes flew overhead but saw nothing. Hope slowly faded. A working radio briefly connected them to the outside world. Hearing voices reminded them that life continued elsewhere. Then, devastating news arrived. The search had been officially stopped. The realization crushed everyone inside the fuselage. The world believed they were already dead. Families were mourning them. Despair filled the frozen air. Wheat food going bodies weakened rapidly. Strength faded with each passing day. Thoughts became slower and darker. Survival seemed impossible. The dead lay preserved by the freezing temperatures. Their presence forced a horrifying reality. Without nourishment, no one would survive. An unthinkable choice loomed. Faith and morality clashed with instinct. Many prayed and cried in silence. No one wanted to speak the truth aloud, but time was running out. After long discussions, the group reached a painful agreement. They believed survival honored the dead more than dying beside them. The decision broke their hearts, yet it kept them alive. Every moment of nourishment carried unbearable emotional weight. Guilt and gratitude mixed with survival. No one took more than necessary. Respect guided every action. Strength slowly returned to weakened bodies. Minds became clearer, allowing planning and discussion. Hope, though fragile, returned. Escape became the new goal. Then disaster struck again without warning. An avalanche thundered down the mountain at night. Snow crushed the fuselage completely. Darkness swallowed them. Trapped under snow, air became scarce. Survivors struggled to breathe in total darkness. Panic threatened to overwhelm them. Several lives were lost silently. After days of digging, they broke free. Hands were bloody and frozen. Grief overwhelmed relief, yet they were alive. Leadership naturally emerged among the group. Decisions had to be made quickly and wisely. Unity became essential. Survival depended on trust. Repeated attempts to repair the radio failed. Batteries were weak and damaged. Communication with the world was impossible. Walking out became the only option. One survivor climbed a nearby peak to scout the surroundings. He hoped to see valleys or signs of life. Instead, endless mountains surrounded him. The truth was devastating. They were deep inside the Andes. Rescued by air was unlikely. Waiting meant certain death. Leaving meant risking everything. Preparations began for a dangerous journey. Improvised clothing was made from plain materials. Shoes were crafted from seat parts and insulation. Courage replaced comfort. 3 men volunteered to attempt the impossible trick. They said goodbye without knowing if it was final. Every step carried fear and hope. The mountains awaited them. The cold punished them relentlessly. Snow blinded their path and drained their strength. Nights were brutal and unforgiving. Still, they pressed on. After days of climbing, exhaustion took its toll. One man was forced to turn back. His body could go no further. The remaining 2 continued. Food supplies dwindled dangerously. Weakness slowed every movement. Each breath felt heavier than the last, but stopping meant death. Eventually, the snow began to thin. Dark rocks appeared beneath their feet. Altitude dropped gradually. Hope surged. They spotted signs of life far below. A valley stretched out in the distance. Civilization no longer felt like a dream. Tears flowed freely. A lone shepherd appeared across a roaring river. The men screamed and waved desperately. Their voices could not cross the noise. Desperation demanded creativity. A note was written explaining the crash and survivors. The message was tied to a stone. It was thrown across the river. The shepherd understood. Authorities were alerted immediately. Rescue teams prepared helicopters for a dangerous mission. Time suddenly mattered again. Hope spread quickly. Back at the crash site, survivors waited anxiously. They watched the sky every day. Doubt and hope battled constantly. Silence stretched painfully. Then the sound of helicopter blades echoed through the mountains. Survivors froze in disbelief. Tears followed laughter. Human voices returned. Rescue helicopters landed carefully on the glacier. Hands reached out with warmth and strength. Survivors were lifted from the wreckage. 72 days of horror ended. 16 people were rescued alive. They were 18 injured and traumatized. But they were alive. The impossible had happened. The world reacted with shock and disbelief. Initial judgment followed quickly. Many struggled to understand their choices. Truth slowly replaced outrage. As the full story emerged, understanding grew. People recognized the impossible conditions they faced. Survival demanded unimaginable decisions. Compassion replaced criticism. The survivors spoke honestly about everything. They hid nothing from the truth. Their faith remained strong. Their humanity remained intact. Families were reunited after months of mourning. Tears flowed endlessly. Lives were forever changed. Gratitude filled every moment. The wreckage remains in the Andes today. It stands as a silent monument. Snow continues to bury and reveal it. History rests there. Flight 571 became one of the greatest survival stories ever told. It showed the limits of human endurance. It revealed the power of will. It redefined hope. This was not a miracle of luck. It was a miracle of courage, a miracle of unity, a miracle of survival. When hope was buried beneath snow and ice, the human spirit refused to freeze. Against impossible odds, life continued. Strength overcame despair. Humanity endured. The miracle of Flight 571 reminds the world that survival is not about comfort. It is about resilience, sacrifice, and belief. Even in the darkest places, hope survives, and sometimes it finds a way home.